Hello, my name is Mrs. Chapman, and I've been working in the catering department for nearly 25 years. And I've just been given a photograph and a presentation in Claverton Rooms, which used to be called the SER, for 25 years long service. Glynis Breakwell is the head of the university, and she, as mentioned, she will be staying here for some time, which I think is good for the staff, the lecturers and students, that she will be endeavouring to keep this university, to keep it going, which I think is a good news to me anyway.
Professor Dame Glynis Breakwell, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Bath, has been in office since 2001. During her time, she has seen the uni through things like the recession, the £9 tuition fee cap, the student body increasing by 6%, and improvement in the national rankings to 5th with The Guardian. Her role as a Vice-Chancellor is an academic leader and chief executive. Her role is to secure strong finances with donors and companies, represent the university internationally, and carry out ceremonial duties such as graduations. She oversees everything, even down to the types of notes in the ATM.
Could the cash machines that we have more cash in?
So what they've now done is to agree to put £10 notes in as well as £20 notes, and I think we'll find that it's a lot easier.
In recent years, the Vice-Chancellor has been put under increasing pressure for the salary she receives. This video will catalogue the series of events that have led to her ultimately resigning as Vice-Chancellor, the response to the announcement, and then what happens next. This video comes from a student media group that doesn't want its university's name to be permanently tarnished, but acknowledges that many mistakes have been made. We want to be as balanced as possible, so sorry, no memes here. But with all this being said, let's talk about the VC. The salary received by the Vice-Chancellor has been criticised for a long time now, with the standard response being that her salary shouldn't have to supplement the university for it to be stable.
If you look at the financial health of this university, I don't think you'll find that it's necessary for me to supplement it through my own salary.
To the recent response that the salary should be globally competitive.
I think that we have a situation where we are in a globally competitive market for talent in higher education, and that's particularly true in terms of the leaders of higher education.
Even with the occasional dismissal thrown in.
More people that are here today could be paid on the living wage just with your salary. Yeah, is that okay?
Our main story tonight, a university under inquiry over pay. The Vice-Chancellor at Bath earns more than £400,000.
The university really started to enter the spotlight for these issues in October last year, when local councillor Jo Raymond's Freedom of Information request about her house surfaced, showing that she lived rent-free in a £2 million townhouse in Lansdowne Crescent, and claimed expenses for over £20,000, including the infamous £2 for biscuits. Some clarification is needed on this matter, as the biscuits have been the symbol of the pay dispute, or as this man so eloquently put it,
"This is our weapon against tyranny here. This is the weapon of the revolution. The revolutionary's true weapon is the biscuit, not the bomb."
The Lansdowne Crescent house is an entertainment venue. This is where she meets with contacts from the industry and with possible donors, all important aspects in terms of securing the university's finances. Last year, there was a goal of raising $66 million, and this is the money that goes to improving our university without coming out of loans. We want as much of this as possible. The house is an important asset for this. The papers want you to think that she lives like a sultan for free, and always seem to miss these facts. The £20,000 goes mostly to the guests and is claimed by cleaning staff, not by the VC. Saying that, there's still definitely an issue here. There is no separation between business and pleasure, which leads to her living costs being covered by the uni and in part our student loans. She could get her huge salary and then purchase the house like a normal millionaire. The second event to hit the news was the huge salary jump that surfaced in December last year. Her pay increased by 45k, and the same attempts of justifications were made as before, such as the global talent markets and the university not having to cost save when it comes to the upper management's pay due to the year's success. This is another point of contention. The university is not a business for profit. To quote the Vice-Chancellor herself in a 2007 URB interview, she stated, "The university is not a business for profit. We are a charitable institution. We don't want a massive surplus. What we want is enough to provide the services and infrastructures that the student needs. Any additional assets and funds procured by the uni need to be invested straight back. Performance-based pay makes sense if you're a bank.
To quote Jo Johnson, the Minister for University, Science, Research and Innovation, she should not be in her job if she wants to be paid like a footballer, saying university managers who want those kind of salaries are not in the right business.
Her pay is set by a group in the university called the Remuneration Committee. These 4 members are responsible for anyone who earns more than 100k a year.
The chair of this is Thomas Shepherd, and in a recent interview he said,
I think the most important thing to understand is the Vice-Chancellor is not involved in any way in setting her remuneration. That's done by an independent committee. In July 2015, that independent committee determined that the work that she'd done in placing the university so well needed to be rewarded, and we needed to retain her services to guide us forward to set the new strategy.
Up until very recently, the VC has sat on this very committee. They've said that she left the room whilst her salary was discussed, but some say this is still a conflict of interest.
They're verging on the corrupt when you have the Vice-Chancellor sitting on her own remuneration committee, saying that she leaves the room when decisions are being made, but having appointed the people on that remuneration committee in the first place. So there are things that are very dubious in the way that things are being run.
Since then, the pressure has only been rising, from local MPs ousting her to 4 people leaving the university court in protest, even to the ex-Minister of State for Education, Lord Adonis. He has been particularly vocal.
The only example the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Bath is setting to her staff is one of greed. That is not my idea of a university. I doubt it appeals to your lordships either.
He even went as far to say that he'll run the university for free for a month to get it out of this crisis. Whether he could lead the uni with a fraction as well as our current Vice-Chancellor is another matter, but it got into the media again. He also requested the pivotal Hefke report.
The Hefke report found many things, but something to note is that the Vice-Chancellor's pay wasn't actually included in part of the scope. It was more focusing on how the upper level governance worked in the university and how it can be improved. Things they found were, for example, that conflicts of interest didn't need to be declared, which would be an important thing to see in the following example.
One of the people that sits on a senior governing board within the university was appointed to that board having previously been the executive director of a company which got large contracts worth 60 million to build both, I believe, both the Chancellor's building and the student accommodation building.
Many points were brought up in the Hefke report. Recommendation 6 says that the Remuneration Committee just needs to be more transparent. Recommendation 9 says that the chair of the council can't also be the chair of the Remuneration Committee. And then recommendation 11 said that the Remuneration Committee should possibly diversify to include other members of staff and possibly students too.
But then, on the 27th of November, we all received the news that the Vice-Chancellor will be stepping down and moving out of her house at the end of the academic year, taking a sabbatical until February 2019 at the exact same pay. The car loan will be written off, meaning she'll never have to pay it back. So, is this it? Is the issue solved? Can we just end the video here? The student body doesn't seem to think so. Despite some thinking that the wind had been taken out of their sails, the planned protest continued. Many students had very valid points.
Education is a business, and that's why we're here today.
She's not resigning, she's getting a comfortable retirement with £600,000 of pay before she leaves.
But many did not.
Why are you here? To protest.
What are you protesting?
The Chancellor.
What about it?
I don't know, to be honest. Just saw everyone coming here, thought we'd join in.
What started off with good intentions just spiralled as the protest marched to the Vice-Chancellor's office. Not into mayhem, but into much worse. A joke. The protest was riddled with many issues. The organisation wasn't directive. Some of the leaders hadn't actually read the Hefke report, and the scope of the protest was far too broad. What was supposed to be achieved by throwing biscuits at the library? This was in line with much of the student activism over the last year, lacking a cohesive argument. The student body focused on satire. If instead the student activists had focused on educating and engaging the student population of the matter, they would have been taken more seriously. The 3 big issues are: 1, the pay distribution is currently that she is earning 30 times the lowest earner, with 74% of the university employees not having a secure employment contract. Secondly, the transparency of the Remuneration Committee. Clearly, they can't post the salaries of the higher management, but they can release exactly how they decide. This is so that we can be sure that the university's money isn't being assigned according to interpersonal relationships. Finally, the university should not be a business. It must be financially stable so that it can continue to offer research and teaching excellence, but not use the spare money to line the pockets of the upper management. This money comes to the university in many forms, such as student loans. That's money that we expect to be going directly to our education. Comes from research grants, where this money is going specifically to the field of research, and then from donations. Nowhere in these income streams has anybody stated that they wanted an extra bit to be set aside for the VC. Just because the university is doing well and there is spare cash does not mean it should be taken by the upper management. Understandably, these recent developments would have made anyone upset. The much larger issue is with the upper management having caused her to be the scapegoat, not only for the institution, but she has been made the face of extortionate salaries for VCs across the country, mostly thanks to Lord Adonis. Is this fair? A woman that has done so much for the university, guided it for what is to be a third of its lifetime, developed bonds with industries internationally and drived arts on the campus. We can categorically say that the recent salary is less than the value she adds to the university. Having her around is not losing the uni money, but the issue is more with the idea, with the greed. The leader of the university has increased salary whilst the rest of the staff are capped at 1.1% to match inflation. She is living rent-free, whilst 2,000 staff are on 0-hour or insecure contracts and being paid under the Bath living wage.
So, it seems year on year the Vice-Chancellor has been taking a calculated risk while allowing her pay to increase with less going to her staff. How could someone who literally wrote The Psychology of Risk get this so wrong herself? Well, it seems the papers are trying to make you think this is a witch hunt, but the issue goes much far beyond this and isn't all about her. Something to bear in mind is, out of all the people who have criticised her pay, how many of them do you think have ever turned down their own salaries?
There certainly is an issue here. It's no coincidence that the average national Vice-Chancellor's salaries have gone up from 165 to 257,000 at the same time student tuitions have risen from 3,000 to 9,000. Just because the money's there, it's being taken. And the process in which the funds are being distributed is getting clouded by managerialist convolutions, so that no one can actually make a decision if it's fair or not. The Hefke report found that at a meeting where they were voting on the conduct of the Remuneration Committee, the vote was deliberately flawed so that a real decision and actions could not be made. The devil's in the detail, and it seems there is a number of people who are profiting from this operational grey zone and are working to keep it there. Going forward, we need to accept that the university will get a Vice-Chancellor that is being paid with a top 1% salary. The question is, are we going to be informed about the process at which the salary is set? Will it be based off student numbers or satisfaction, or is it just going to be based off profits for that year? In which case, we are back to where we started, and a fresh face won't achieve anything.